So hey guys, I'm going to be reviewing another lovely book by Kimberla Lawson Roby, and this is one of her standalone books. It's entitled Copycat. Now this deals with two women. One name is Tracy and one name is Simone, and of course they have different experiences, different backgrounds, but yet they seem to have some things kind of in common. Or so one thinks. But anyways, I really love this book and I'm just going to jump right into it. So with it being entitled Copycat, we pretty much know the synopsis or the way that this book is going to go. It's very self-explanatory. So anyways, it starts out with one of the characters, Simone, and she is at a hair shop or a hair salon place, and she's in there for the first time. Now, she previously went to another hair salon place, but she really didn't like the way that some of the stylists would treat the customers. They would come late and they would have long lines and they would be in there a lengthy amount of time. So she feels like, I don't want to deal with that anymore, so let me try a new salon. So she's in the salon and she's sitting there and she has an appointment, of course. She made an appointment. I forget what the stylist's name, but anyways, she's in there and she's just sitting there and she happens to notice a woman who looks kind of familiar to her. And she was like, oh my gosh, that looks like this author named Tracy Calloway. And she was like, I wonder, is that her? And anyway, she's smiling at her, but she doesn't want to make it too obvious. But nonetheless, she speaks and they say hello and they're chittering and chattering and talking and different things like that. And she say, oh, are you that author? And of course, Tracy is like, yeah, I'm her. How are you? And she was like, I'm good. And they just start making, small talk. And Tracy was having a great time just speaking with this girl and talking with this girl. So she discovers that Simone is an inspiring writer or whatever. And right off the bat, she likes that because it's not too often that she runs across, inspiring writers who aspire to be a great author one day. So she takes a liking to that. And they just started talking about, a little bit about what they do. Of course, Simone says, I am I work at an insurance place, and that she just recently relocated to Mitchell. I believe that's someplace in North Carolina, and how she's from Ohio. And of course, Tracy's like, wow, that's a long way away from home. Like, what brings you here? She was just like, I just relocated. And I'm here because of a job reason or whatever like that. And so, Tracy was asking her, how do you like it so far? She was like, it's a bit of cattiness, here, but nonetheless, I'm enjoying it thus far. And so, of course, her stylist comes and she has to go back there and get her hair done, but she was just eyeing Tracy and her bag. She's seen this Gucci bag that Tracy had, and she was just really looking at her, admiring her style and just the way that she looks, her hair and all of that. And they just really took a liking to each other. They kind of like, I don't know, they just had this instant connection. And so and she was just taken aback how polite and down to earth Tracy was, with her being a critically acclaimed author. She just couldn't believe how approachable and just down to earth she was. So she was like, wow, that's really great. And so when she was done with that appointment and she left or whatever, and Tracy was like, well, it was nice meeting you. And blase, they leave. And when Simone started saying, I really like that handbag that she has, I need to find the exact same one. And, at first I didn't think anything was wrong with that, because sometimes you can see, a pair of shoes or jeans or a bag that, you see and you may want that for yourself. So I didn't think anything of it. But she goes home and actually tried to search for it, but it wasn't available in their particular location. So I was like, the next thing she said, I need to go to the next location and state that does have it. So she was willing to go completely outside of her location to go get this bag. I found that to be like, that's a little bit extreme, but nonetheless, whatever. And then it gets into a little bit of the background with Tracy Calloway Cole. Now, Tracy, she comes from a very loving family. She has her mother and father. She has a sister named Robin, and they're all very close. She was brought up with a lot of support, a lot of love, just really close, just that great family unit. Very healthy relationships with her father, mother, and sister. So she had a great life. But when she was younger, she married her high school sweetheart. But after months of being with him, he became abusive. But he would always say how sorry he was and how he wasn't going to do it again, how he was going to change. You know how that story goes. Long story short, they marry. Their marriage didn't work out because he just kept abusing her and kept abusing her. And so she finally got the courage and nerve enough to say, like, wait a minute, this is not healthy. I'm not doing this anymore. And it was only when he took a pillow and tried to smother her with it. And her life just kind of flashed before her eyes. And in that moment, she knew that, okay, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. I cannot be with him. And after 5 years of marriage with him, they divorced. And I'm glad that she got out of that situation without being hurt. And so she took some time to heal and get over that situation. And then she finds this other guy named Tim comes into her life, and he is totally opposite from what she experienced previously in her last marriage and relationship. He is very supportive. He's secure. He's funny. He's just everything, just a knight in shining armor. He comes into her life. They get married, and they've been married for 15 years. And he has a wonderful job, as well as her. I forget what he does, but he does have a wonderful job. And she is a writer. She's doing well for herself. She's making very good money, hence explains the car that she drives. She drives a Mercedes S550, and it's very beautiful. It's white, and it explains her beautiful, practically it looks like a mansion. It's a nice house, and she has lots of designer things that she can afford because her writing stories is doing well. She's making a great living, so she can buy all of the finer things in life, and she's just doing lovely. So I'm like, yes, like I really love how she is just enjoying the fruits of her labors, so to speak. So she has a lot of beautiful things, and I just love that. And she's in love or whatever, and she's just living her life now. She did befriend this woman named Denise, who was also an aspiring writer, and she loves to help people. Like, that's one thing about her that I also loved, is that she loves to extend a helping hand, and she's not the type that likes to step on people's toes to climb her way to the top or stab someone in the back. She just gets things the right way and treat people right. And so she's always trying to lend a helping hand if she can. And I really like that about her character. But she befriended someone named Denise. Comes to find out, this woman was very envious and jealous of her and tried to stab her in the back and just did some things that tried to ruin her credibility. And it just was an ugly situation. So she has colleagues and she has people that she can interact and talk with, but no one it's just different when someone shares your same work background or same interests as far as what it's like to be a writer. It's always nice when you can meet someone who is on your same wavelength with doing what you do. So she always wanted that. She wanted a close friend that kind of understood her when it came to in that aspect of her work and what she does. So that didn't work out too well. So she's just kind of like wanting a friend. So, of course, after meeting Simone, she kind of thought about her a little bit like, wow, I really enjoyed that conversation or whatever. And so her and her husband are just having dinner and just chatting or whatever and just enjoying one another. And so later that day, she goes to check her social networks because, you know, she has certain days where she'll go on and check her emails and see what's going on with her Twitter, her Instagram, just to kind of keep up with her fans or whatever. And so she sees that she has a message on Facebook. Now, this is on her the public page for all of the fans or whatever, not on her personal Facebook. So she sees that she has a message, and of course, it's from Simone, the girl that she met at the salon. And of course, Simone was like, "It was so nice to meet you. I hope you don't find this to be kind of weird to have me message you, but I really had a great time. And like I said, I'm an inspiring writer, and I was just wanting to know if you can give me some tips or kind of tell me, kind of just show me the ropes of different things. And if you don't mind, I would like your opinion on this story that I wrote. If not, I totally understand, and that she will leave her number." But of course, she didn't leave her number in that particular message, but she saw another message where she actually left her phone number. And so she decides like, okay, you know, I did enjoy our conversation. I really do like her. So let me give her a buzz. And so she calls her. And of course, Simone is just taken aback when she receives a phone call from Tracy. She was like, "Oh my gosh, hello. I can't believe you actually called me so soon." And Tracy was like, no, it's not a problem. I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time. And Simone was like, "No, you didn't catch me at a bad time. I just greatly appreciate you not thinking that it's strange to just message you and then leave my number, but you were just so nice, and I just appreciate that, and I would just like your input on, you know, the story that I wrote if you have time." And of course, Tracy was just explaining to her that she does have time, and normally she is busy, but when she sees people that are passionate and who are aspiring writers, she likes to lend a helping hand. So of course she said, "Yeah, you could just email me your story, your manuscripts or whatever, and I will look over it and I'll let you know." And then also I have writers and proofreaders and just all those type of people that I can, you know, point you in their direction if you need that as well. And so of course they hang up or whatnot, and Simone is just really glad about that. She's just so happy. Now, with Simone, like I said, she just relocated. She's from Ohio, but she just relocated to Mitchell because of her job. And she actually has a great guy in her life by the name of Chris. Now, Chris is 10 years older than her, but he's very young at heart. And mind you, these women are 39, 40. So yeah, he's in his 50s, and I think he works at the post office. I think he's a manager at the post office, but he does pretty well for himself, you know, decent job. And he really loves her. He's very supportive. He's very kind. He's very honest, and he just really cares a great deal about her. And they are engaged right now, and they're supposed to be engaged for a year, but right now they are getting counseling, marriage counseling. They're going through that. just to see if, they are a good fit. They do have some problems because they have a lot of differences when it comes to how the money should be handled, about who should give up what, because she has a condo, he has a home. It's just a lot of things that they need to talk about, but he's a great guy. Now, with Simone's past, she doesn't really have a great background. Her parents, her mother and father, were both on drugs. Her father died back behind drugs, and then her mother, she tried to get straight, but now she relapsed and she's on drugs again. And then pretty much her grandmother raised her, but they didn't come from money. They were very poor. They weren't really good with money. They didn't make good decisions, and they didn't really treat her right. And her grandmother is kind of ghetto. Her grandmother tried to love her the best she knew how, but it was just a lot of things that Simone went through that kind of explains, or it contributes to how she is. And we'll talk about that later as we go on in this book here. But yeah, she has a great guy. But so after she hung up with Tracy, Simone then began to start checking Tracy's Twitter and what she would tweet. And she noticed how Tracy always had a religious type of quote in scripture with the scripture just verse and all of that chapter and all of that included into her tweets. And so she was looking at that. But then she would take it a step further and try to watch her Facebook page and see what she posted. And she just kept doing this over and over. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. You just met this woman. Why are you, and I mean, just very frequently, just checking what she would post and checking to see what she was doing, just checking it. And then she started looking at how many followers Tracy had, which was a large number, but she's a critically acclaimed author. So what do you expect? She's a public figure. And she looked at how many followers she had on her Facebook fans page. And she was like, man, I need to step my game up because I think she only had like 100 or something like that, maybe 200. So she started comparing, like, okay, if I want to take myself seriously, I need to get my followers up, and then I need to tweet what she be tweeting about. And then not only that, she started studying her clothes. She would go through Tracy's pictures and started looking at her clothes and what she would wear. And then she started saying, I need to get a blouse just like that, or I need to get a skirt like that. I need to find outfits and different things that are identical to hers. If I want to be successful, I need to dress the part and I need to step my game up and be like her. And I was like, this right here, this is not looking too good. And so, of course, her fiance, was kind of like, eyeing her and saying, who is that? He just happened to see her on her computer or whatever. And he was like, who is that? And she was like, oh, this is Tracy Calloway Cole. She's a great author and different things like that. And I met her at a salon, and she called me and she's helping me out. She's going to read one of my stories. And he was like, great, that's great. And all that. And she said, well, do you think it would be strange if I befriended her on her personal Facebook? And he was like, but aren't you following her on the public one? Why would you want to then follow her on her personal Facebook? You just met her. And she was like, I mean, she kind of was pissed off that he said that and not encouraging her to go ahead and request to follow her on her personal Facebook. But he didn't think that was a great idea. He thought it was too soon, and that's a little weird, especially with you just meeting someone. So he kind of wanted her to not do that, but she didn't care one way or the other. She decided that she was going to go ahead and send the request. And I was like, okay, this woman is crazy. But the extent that she was going when she was watching her clothes and different things like that, like when she would go, she would try so many different places like Nordstrom's, you name it, she's searching. She's searching every clothing site until she found the identical color of the shirt, color of her skirt, pants, whatever it was that she wore. She started like trying to get it to a science. And when she couldn't find it, she would be so devastated that she would go to great lengths to try to find it. It was just bizarre to me. And I'm like, that is really weird. I'm like, okay, so she took the obsession a little bit further because she was at work, and here you are at work and you're supposed to be doing your job. You're not doing your job. Now she's supposed to answer these insurance claims, handling those cases, and she would have customers call and keep calling and keep calling. But this one particular customer, she didn't like dealing with her because this woman has had 4 wrecks in like a span of 2 months. So they had to let her go. Now they would help bail her out, but this final time they had to let her go. So they wasn't going to extend, a relationship with this particular woman because she had too many accidents and they just wasn't going to represent her anymore. So she kept calling and kept calling. And so when she wasn't answering, they had to talk to someone else to bring to their attention that Simone isn't answering the phone calls or whatever. So when she saw that, the other people higher up were calling her saying, hey, customer so-and-so is calling. They said you didn't answer. And of course, she's trying to act like, I don't know what excuse she gave, but she said, go ahead and pull them through. And of course, she answered the phone call. But the fact that you're not doing your job because you're on your computer trying to see what this woman is doing and trying to copy everything that she does on her social networks is beyond me. And so she started taking it a step further. She started requesting her on not only Facebook, but she followed her on Instagram, Twitter, Google. It was just everything you could think of. Pinterest. It was just so many different like networks that it was beyond me. I'm not finna do that. I'm just gonna follow you one place and that's gonna be that. But I said, okay, this is weird. She keeps trying to get her same clothes. This is weird too. I was like, okay, this girl, no, this is a little bit obsessive, but I'm gonna keep reading, see what's gonna happen. So it had been some days, and Tracy did find it strange to because she don't get on her stuff every day. Like she may tweet something more frequently than she does check all her other stuff. But then she saw where Simone had requested to follow her on all her social networks. But she didn't think anything of this because she was like, okay, you just want to keep up with what I'm doing. So that's kind of not uncommon. She didn't think anything about that. But when she was talking to her husband, of course, she was telling him about her and how she met her and how they have so much in common. Of course, Tracy's husband, Tim, was leery because of her last experience with Denise. And he was like, well, you need to be careful. You know what happened last time? You thought Denise was great when that experience was not so great. So just be careful, because he could see that his wife was really taking a liking to Simone, and she was kind of fond of Simone because, like I said, when she first met her in the salon and they was making small talk, she told her husband that she had met her and how she was going to call her and help her out. And so, of course, her husband was like, her husband, Tim, was like, I don't see why she's following you on all that stuff. That's just weird to me. And she just met you. She met you like a month or two ago. And of course she was like, don't worry about it. It's nothing. So anyways, Simone just kept going further and further. And of course, she was trying to find a way on how they could just hang out and be friends. Like, she never initiated that. She would always wait to see what Tracy was going to do. And so Tracy, of course, got back with Simone and said, you know what? I read your stories. They're very, very great. And I'm not just saying that. I think that you will do well. And I think it's a great idea. I think you are ready to move forward. And I'm going to give you the names of the people that I told you where you can get this published. I think is very great. And of course, she was like, oh my gosh, like, thank you so much. And I think Tracy wanted to have dinner with her, you know, just to go out and grab something to eat or whatnot. And of course, this is right up Simone's alley. And so she was like, yeah, sure. And so they meet and they have dinner. And they're there at the place and they sit down. And of course, the waitress comes over and she was like, well, have you guys decided on what you want to get? And so the hostess recommended this salmon Caesar salad type of deal. And of course, Tracy loves that. So she agreed to go ahead and get that. And then Simone got the same thing, the same exact thing. But it was like Simone was waiting on Tracy to order to see what she was going to order just so she can copycat that. Now, when she did that, that got Tracy to think a little bit like, dang, it feels as if she was waiting on me to order. Like it feels that way. It feels like she was trying to wait to see what I was going to order. And then whatever I was going to have, she was just game for it. So she was just like, that's a bit strange. So anyways, they're just sitting there. They have a good time. They're just chitter chatting about little this, little that, and all that. And they're really enjoying their dinner. And Tracy was like, well, I need to go over here and go shopping because I got to go pick up a few things. And of course, Simone didn't want the evening to end. So she was like, well, I mean, I wouldn't mind going over there to shop. And besides, I'm not ready to go home. And she was like, that is, of course, if you don't mind. And of course, Tracy was like, oh, sure. I don't mind you coming. And besides, it's a lot of fun when you have someone, you know, with you. So they're going to the mall and different things like that. And, of course, Tracy is picking out different things that she found to be cute. And she saw these sandals that were really cute, but she didn't see her size out there. There was some cute diamond sandals. And she asked one of the sales clerk or whatever, hey, could you check back there and see if you have a size 9? And of course, the girl goes back there and she comes back. She said, well, you're in luck. This is your lucky day. This must be meant because we only have one left. And she was like, yes, thank you so much. And of course, mind you, Simone is sitting back watching this, but she's trying to act like, you know, she's doing her own thing, but she is eyeing every single thing that Tracy is doing. And so she's just watching, trying to act like, you know, she's getting something else. And so she gets to the counter. Tracy gets to the counter and she sees these hooped silver earrings and she was looking at them. She was like, they're kind of cute, but do I really need them? Do I want them? She saw the price. They was a bit pricey, as well as those sandals. They were really pricey, but she had like a discount card or whatever that she could use to get some discounts off or whatever for it to be discounted. And she decided on these silver hooped earrings. And she said, yeah, I'm going to have that. And I think that's going to be all for me. And of course, I think Simone got a few things, but she was just studying. She was studying Tracy down to a science. So anyway, I was like, well, I'm shocked that she's not trying to copy that. I was like, wow, maybe she's not a copycat after all. Not really, if she didn't do that. So anyways, they leave there. And they decide that today is done because actually Tracy's husband called and he was like, where are you at? And she was like, well, I had dinner with Simone, and then we decided to come over to the mall, and we're finished here and I'll be home. Because he was like, when are you going to get here? She was like, I'm on my way home, whatever. And so they go into the parking lot, but then Simone comes back. She drove around the parking lot 2 times to make sure that her friend actually left up out of the mall parking lot. She drives around 2 to 4 times. And when she knows that she's really gone and the coast is clear, she gets out of the car and she goes back into the mall. Okay. And she goes back in the store where she got the sandals, and she was like, I was wondering if you can find my size shoe. I think in a size 8 or was it 7? I don't know. They didn't have it. No, they said, yeah, actually, we do have it. And actually, your friend, these are the same as what your friend got. And she was like, yeah, I know. Like sometimes we have similar tastes in items and different things like that. She was like, yeah, I know how that is. These are cute and these are selling like hotcakes. So she got that. She was so elated that she got the last pair that was identical to her friend Tracy. And then when she get up to the counter, she gets now, she had settled on some pearl earrings. Simone had settled on some pearl earrings and she really liked those earrings. But when she saw Tracy's choice, she was like, I don't really like these all that much. I want the silver hooped ones, just like Tracy. So this girl's sitting there contemplating, like when she got up to the counter, she was contemplating if she wanted to keep the pearls or get the silver hoops. And of course, she got the silver hoops. She exchanged them. And the clerk was like, oh, your friend got the same kind. And she didn't say anything. So she got the silver hoops and the little slippers, sandals that her friend got. Then she went over to the other store. Because mind you, they went several places. She went over to the other store and got the same exact identical sleeveless shirt, this white shirt that she got, sleeveless shirt, identical to her friend. And she ain't all that crazy, and she knew not to do this in front of her friend. She had sense enough to not do this in front of her friend. So it's like, if you don't feel anything is wrong with what you're doing and you really do genuinely feel like you guys have similar tastes, then why would you wait? You drive around the parking lot 4 times just to make sure your friend is gone and then go back in there by yourself solo dolo to go get the same items that your friend purchased. Come on. So anyway, she has a problem. She got her stuff and went home. And of course, her boyfriend, Chris, is like just eyeing the situation. Because lately she's been busy, she's been tied up and talking a lot about, Tracy. Chris is studying all of this, okay? Studying all of this. Now, mind you, when they will go to counseling or he would suggest that they go to counseling or whatever, she never liked to go to church. Simone never liked to go to church, but she did agree to some counseling. But she never wanted to go to church. And then he noticed like just a change in her. And he knew it was because of, he was just putting 2 and 2 together. Like, you're trying to keep up with Tracy. I see you followed her on all of her social networkings and different things like that. He was just putting 2 and 2 together. So much so that apparently with Tracy quoting or tweeting out all of these scripture quotes or whatnot, Simone then found out where this girl goes to church. Now, the church they go to is Pastor Reverend Black's church. Now, he is a character in the Reverend Black series that this author wrote about. So they go to his church. Now, she didn't discover where this girl go to church. Now, mind you, she never goes to church, but she all of a sudden wants to go to church, and she had to beg her boyfriend, her fiance, Chris, to just come to church with me. I just want to go to church. I just want to come. And he couldn't figure it out. Like, out of all churches, I love my church. I've been at my church for years, and you never, not one time, came to my church that I practically grew up in and been going to a long time now. You didn't want to go to that church, but now you want to go to Reverend Black's church? I don't get it. He said, it's probably because your friend, because of Tracy. He didn't say that. He was thinking that in his mind, like it wouldn't be a coincidence. And of course, she didn't say anything. So she kind of was able to get him to finally agreed to go to this church. She said, besides, it's just a one-time thing. I just want to visit his church or whatever. And I promise you, when we get married, we'll go to your church, just so he could come out and go to this church. So anyways, they go to the church, and they're up in there, and she's she's just hoping in her mind that she could see Tracy, that she can bump into Tracy. So as they're going into the congregation, which is very big, mind you, is a very big congregation, she decides to be on the bottom level, and sure enough, she spots Tracy and her family. Okay. Now, where she sat like 2 rows behind her, and she was her day was so made when she knew that she was sitting 2 rows behind Tracy. She was just studying her and looking at what she had on, looking at her hair and everything. And she was just hoping that Tracy would notice her. And sure enough, as they look around and they're greeting people, she does spot Simone, and she waves, and she comes over and hugs her and say, "Oh, welcome. I can't believe you're here." She was like, "Yeah, I'm visiting." She was like, "Yeah, a lot of people love to visit this church. I'm so glad you came. Welcome. And I'm so glad you're here. And I'll see you later, girl." And she was just so happy. And then, of course, she introduced Chris. She was like, "This is Chris," or whatnot. And so Chris is just sitting there like, now, what is the odds of this? This is the reason why this girl wanted to come to this church. Now, I knew something was to this. And so she's up in church, and the message that the pastor had was, when you're trying to be like someone else, and how dangerous or the outcomes of it all is not going to be good for you. Something on those lines. He taught and he was preaching on that particular subject and topic. And she didn't like the message. Now here she is. She's blinded to all the things that she's doing. Okay. She's studying this girl. She's copying this girl. She's buying everything that this girl has. Just obsessed with this girl, but yet she couldn't. That right there was a call for help. Like, God was trying to reach out. That message was specifically for her. So she was in the right place at the right time, at the right moment. He was reaching out to her then, because that message was made for her. And she didn't listen to a word of it. She didn't even like the title. She didn't even like what he was talking about, because she felt like it had no correlation to her, and she couldn't relate. So she kind of like zoned out. She was just studying and watching Tracy so much that she couldn't even catch that message that God had for her. After church or whatever, of course, they spoke again, and Tracy introduced Simone to her sister Robin, who is 5 years older than her. and her mother and her father, and of course, Tim. Now, Robin, her sister Robin, did not like her at all. Not at all. And, the mother, she greeted her and she didn't not like her. She liked her. She gives people the benefit of the doubt. Of course, they all were just cordial and nice and polite, and she got a chance to just meet them or whatever. And so they just go their separate ways or whatever and get in their car. So after Simone get in her car with her fiance, Chris was just telling her, you ain't fooling nobody. You had to have known that she went to this church. And she was like, well, if I did, what difference does it make? We kind of have things in common. And he was like, that ain't no coincidence. I think you found out where this girl goes to church. And that's the only reason why you wanted to visit this church, because you never go to churches. So all of a sudden, since you know your new best friend is going to this church, you want to go there too. And she's like, whatever. And so, of course, Tracy's sister Robin is like, I just don't like her. Did you notice how she had the same exact bag as yours? Your same Gucci bag and the same color? Like, come on now. That seems like a little bit sketchy to me. It seems weird that she would want the same bag as you. And then her clothes is kind of like yours. Like, I don't like her. And of course, Tracy was like, oh, girl, would you please stop? Like, people buy the same designer bags all the time. Maybe it's just a coincidence. You're just saying that. You don't really know for sure if she bought that after she met me. You don't know. She could have already had that. And of course, her husband, Tim, already feels a certain type of way. He was like, yeah, you just got to be careful because we don't want another repeat of a Denise type of situation. And of course, the father, her father is like, yeah, you need to be careful. But the mother likes to see the good in people, give people the benefit of the doubt. So Tracy and her mother kind of feel the same way. And then besides, Tracy was like, just take it easy on her. I know she wears a smile, but I can kind of feel that there is kind of like a sadness in her eyes, because like when they had dinner the other night and she was talking about her family and how close she is with her mother, her father, and she just has that type of great dynamic when it comes to family and how close you're supposed to be and how they share everything together and how they hang out and how they're just like best friends. She could see a sadness in Simone's eyes, even though she was trying to wear a smile. And then when she would ask her about her own family, she was just saying pretty much a little of nothing, like how her grandmother raised her and how her parents are from California, which is a lie. Her people are from Ohio. But remember, she don't have a great background with her family, and she's ashamed of them, and she's kind of ashamed of where she's come from. So she lied a little bit. And so she really didn't go into details about that, but she kind of, since she was sitting there listening to Tracy's story on how close she is to her family, she kind of like was not being truthful about her relationship with her family. She just pretty much said, well, they're in California. We're really not that close as we used to be, but we have a great relationship. We're a loving family. I just don't get out there very much to go to California, and we don't really spend that much time together because I'm here and they're there, and blase. So she really didn't tell her the truth as to what really is going on in her family, because she's trying to, I guess, just have this same identical life as Tracy, or want Tracy to believe that. But Tracy can see what's going on there. Like something is to that. So she kind of feels sorry for her, and she kind of feels like, this girl just needs a helping hand, and I'm going to be here to help her. But all of her family is just trying to tell Tracy to pretty much be careful. So anyways, this obsession goes deeper. Now, mind you, this girl, Simone, has a job to do. She has work to do. But here she is calling out sick. Okay. She's calling out sick because after she saw what Tracy was wearing at church, she began to feel bad about what she wore. She was like, what was I thinking wearing the pantsuit that I wore? It wasn't even stylish looking. And I need to go buy the same exact dress that she saw Tracy wear. It was this red dress, and it was nice, but that was what she had. Tracy, that's what she wore. I don't know, but she wanted that same dress. And so she looked again on all of the websites, Nordstrom's, Macy's, just checking everywhere for this dress, and she couldn't find it. And she kept going and kept going and kept going until she finds it. And she finally found it, and it was highly expensive. And then she went further. After she purchased that, she wanted it to come quick too. So she had to pay another price. I think it was like $300 for that dress. And then she had to pay an additional $30 to have it shipped overnight, or however, whatever time frame she wanted it to her place. And then she took it a step further, and she wanted the same shoes that girl had. I think they were a patent leather black pump that was highly expensive as well. I think that was like $300. And so she's going out of her way. Now, this girl can have an acquired taste. Tracy can have that taste because she can afford it. Versus Simone, she can't afford it. She has all these credit cards. Now, here this girl is, when she got to Mitchell, she had made a promise to herself that she was going to be good with money, which she had been. Her credit, she got her credit repaired. I think she fixed that 10 years ago when she filed for bankruptcy. She was doing good with her credit cards, her payments, her money. She was really doing good. And she had all these credit cards or whatnot because of her good decision-making choices when it came to money and how she spent it. So she was doing really good. But now that she's trying to keep up with this lifestyle with her friend Tracy, she's starting to max out the cards. All of them. She has like 5 of them, and she's starting to max out the cards because she's trying to buy every single thing like Tracy, but Tracy has an expensive type of taste. And not only that, she was studying and looking at how big of a ring that Tracy has. And she wants that same exact ring. Now, she has a nice little ring. It's a nice solitaire little diamond ring, but she wants it bigger, just like Tracy. And she was like, and that reminds me that I need to tell Chris to get me something bigger. This is bananas. This is crazy. Like, you want everything down to a science, just like that daggum girl. So anyways, now here she is. She's supposed to be taking care of her own business. This girl is actually calling out of work, calling in sick because she wants to spend her whole entire day searching for this and that like Tracy. And she was starting to go to her Twitter, her Google, her Goodreads, her Instagram, her Facebook, just studying and rereading. And then she started looking on YouTube at her interviews and the way that she would talk and her mannerisms and just her voice, her tone. And she started playing the video over and over and over again. And she would pause and try to mimic her voice until she sound identical to Tracy. And she was just practicing and practicing. She was taking off of work to practice this girl's mannerisms and her voice and her tone and her speech and the depiction and the way that she says certain words. And that's when I was scared, because I'm like, this girl is listening to this girl's interview and copying her voice until she sound exactly like her. And then she took it a step further. Now she said, I know my name is Simone Phillips. I think that was her last name. And she was like, it just doesn't have a ring to it. Not like Tracy Calloway Cole. And she because a lot of authors, they use like a alias name for, like, I don't know, something catchy as an author's name. And I guess she was trying to do the same thing, but she was trying to make it as close as possible to Tracy Calloway Cole. It was just, I said, this girl is crazy. That's when I was scared. I was like, this girl got a major problem on her hands with this girl. This girl's going to be a problem. And her family, Tracy's husband, Tim, don't even like her. He's leery of her. Her sister Robin don't really like her. And her father really is like, you need to be careful. The only person who kind of like thinks she's decent is her mother. And then, of course, Tracy. So I just can't. And this girl's taking it a step further. She is just crazy. So her and Tracy, they're still talking and hanging out and different things like that. And so Tracy decides to invite her over for Easter so that, they can be better acquainted and they can sit down and have a nice dinner. And of course, Chris and her are having problems because Chris himself don't even know this girl's background. He don't even know how much he makes. And here Chris is, he done told her everything, how much he makes, about his family and their background and all of this. He even said, I'll give you a key to my place since we're practically engaged and we're going to be married in 9 months. And, I trust you. I love you. But she won't give him a key. She hasn't told him the real truth about who she is, where she's come from. She always brush it off and act like, she doesn't really talk to her family, that they're in California, and that's that. So he doesn't know much about her. And now he really wants to start digging into who she really is because he needs to know who he's going to marry because he only knows so much. She doesn't really let him in. And then she wants to give this story like, oh, I trusted someone once before I was engaged, which she was engaged, but what happened back where she's from, which is the real reason why she moved to Mitchell, is because her fiance discovered some things about her. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But, she always gives this sad excuse. Oh, my fiance, I thought I could trust him. And I do love you, baby. Just give me time. I'm going to open up. Just be patient with me. You've been really good. Blase, blase. I want you to come to dinner with me. I've been invited over to Tracy's house to have the Easter dinner. And he really didn't want to go because he was like, well, we already promised my parents that we would go over there 2 months before this even came about. She was like, I know. She baby talked her way into letting him or convincing him to come and let's just go over there. He really didn't want to do it, but he's just trying to make her happy. But he had already told his family that they were going to go over there and have dinner with them. Then he had to break that off to go to this woman's house. So anyways, they went to go get some counseling. And Chris's pastor, when he was sitting down trying to counsel them, he was asking Simone how she felt about money and the way it should be handled. And she was like, I feel like we should have separate bank accounts. We shouldn't join them together. So they didn't see eye to eye on that. And then Chris feels like we need to join everything together because that's the way his parents did it. Now, his parents been married for, I think, like 45 years or 40 years or something like that. And they were successful. That worked for them. So he wanted to incorporate that. And then he asked her, well, how do you feel about the living situation? Are you willing to give up your condo to move into his house? And of course, she feels like, I don't really know where I'm at with that as well. Like, I have a condo, it's newer and his home is like a little bit older. So I feel like he should give up his stuff and move in with me. And of course he was like, why would I do that when I own my home? You're renting your condo. You don't even own your condo. And so they didn't see eye to eye on that. And then he was like, well, how do you feel about church? Obviously you don't come to church. And she said, on that, I don't really know what I want to do with that. And he was like, well, you said that when we get married, you will join this church. And she was like, I really don't know. And he was like, I know you don't know because your little best friend, Tracy, is at the church where you visited. And that's where you really want to go because she goes to that church. And she was like, well, yeah, I'm just kind of conflicted. I don't know if I want to stay in your church or go over there. I really don't know right now. I just need more time. And so when the pastor was listening to them and trying to counsel them, he was like, look, I've been doing this for years. You guys, I don't think y'all are fit to be married. You just shouldn't get married. And so Chris was feeling the same way because they didn't have nothing in common and they didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. So they left there feeling a little bit discouraged because Chris really loves her and he's trying to compromise with this girl, but this girl is not bending and she's not compromising at all. So they have some real problems. And so, of course, it comes time for them to go to the Easter dinner. And of course, Chris is still angry about how that whole counseling went. And so they were kind of arguing. She was like, what do you want from me? He was like, I just want you to let me in. I want to know how much you're making. I want to know about your family. I want to know more about you. And she was like, I just don't want to do this. Not when we're on our way over there. And this and that. He was like, well, maybe we shouldn't go. And she was like, oh, no, please don't do this. Please don't do this at this time. Like, we're about to go there. We don't want to seem like we have problems or trouble. I really need you to pull this together. And so she just started telling him everything that he wanted to hear just so they can go in and wear this happy face. And so she told him, look, if it means that much to you, we can join our money together. No, she didn't say that. That she was not going to do. She said, I'll give up my condo and I'll move in the house with you. If that's what matters most to you, then I will comply and do that. And I'll even go to the same church as you. I'll even do that. Now, mind you, she doesn't mean any of this. She's just saying this to save face so that they can go in and seem like this happy couple. So when he saw that she was, and then she brought herself to tears, like she manipulated the situation just to get him back on her side and in good graces and to be happy again. And he kind of believed her. He was like, okay, well, maybe we are meant to be. She's complying a little bit. She's showing me that she's trying to compromise and bend. So they're happy. And so as they're driving up, this is the first time going to her home, and she sees how beautiful her home is in the subdivision that she lives in. And she started thinking in her head, like, dang, I would kill to live over here, live in this neighborhood, and practically, possibly, maybe these homes, one of the homes can come up for sale, and ideally maybe one next door to her. Maybe we can be next door neighbors. And she started saying, we need to work this out. And then they get into the driveway and she sees the Mercedes S550, the white Mercedes S550. And she was like, oh my gosh, I need that. And Chris is just watching her, how she's reacting to looking at the outside of the home and then the car in the driveway. And she's just really impressed. And she was like, wow, look at that. And he was like, I'm not really studying that. And she was like, why are you not studying that? Like, this is absolutely gorgeous. Like, you're not impressed. And he was like, no, not really. And he could tell that her wheels were turning because she wanted that for herself. And she says that she was like, we need to have more. We need to get a car like that. And we need to have a home like this. This is what we really need. And he didn't like that because it's kind of like downplaying everything he already has. So he was like, I'm not into materialistic things like you are. And it's not that big of a deal. They have nice things, but so what? I'm not going to do cartwheels and be in awe of it like you are right now, like you're acting. And she was like, just fine, just pull it together and let's go in there. So they go in there. Now, at this point, Simone, during that time when she was taking off and trying to study Tracy, Simone had short hair, okay? But she decided that I needed to get my hair shoulder length, just like Tracy. Now, mind you, her hair is short and black. She dyed her hair to a more brownish, like natural color that was closer to Tracy, identical to Tracy's. She has extensions in now, which is very expensive. Every time that she has to go get a touch up is like $1,200. So she has extensions, except for Tracy hair is natural. She has naturally shoulder length, brownish type of natural colored hair to her shoulders. So she got this extensions identical to how Tracy hair is. And not only that, she got her eyebrows. Her eyebrows were totally a different shape. Okay, made totally different. But she got her eyebrows done identical to Tracy's. And she has the dress that's identical to Tracy's. Okay. And so this is the first time going to her house. Now, mind you, she's going to her house with a new hairstyle, extensions in her hair is the same way as Tracy's. Her eyebrows the same way as Tracy. She's carrying the bag that Tracy has, and her dress is kind of like the same as Tracy's. So when she gets there, of course, immediately Tracy's sister Robin is just studying this girl like, this girl is crazy. She got to be blind as a bat if she think I don't see that she's trying to copycat my sister. She has her eyebrows like her hair like her, like she's dressed so much like my sister, you can't tell them apart. And she actually does say something like that, to that effect. And of course, Simone just kind of like ignored her and just kept talking to everybody else. They had their dinner. And of course, Tracy's husband, Tim, and Chris hit it off, and they really like each other, and they're engaging in their conversation. Just men talk as far as what each other does as a living and different things like that. And everybody is just having a good time. They're enjoying their food. But Simone started feeling a certain type of way because she saw all of the love and the interaction that Tracy had with her family and how close she was with her family. And she never had that. So she didn't know how to take it because she wasn't used to that. And she was a little bit emotional, but she was just studying everything and just wished that she had that. And was just grateful that she got invited and grateful that, this was her best friend. She was acting like this is her best friend and this means everything to her and how close they are together, and she just feeling like they're getting closer and closer and closer. And after that dinner, they say their goodbye, and of course, once again, Robin is trying to warn Tracy, her sister, of this girl, saying, man, you need to pay attention. Y'all are dressed so much alike that is scary. And of course, Tracy really didn't pay attention to it. She really didn't notice it. And she's like, just calm down. I just think the girl just admired me. And like I said, I really feel a sadness in her eyes. I feel sorry for her and I'm trying to help her or whatever. And then, of course, Chris and Simone, he saw what was going on. He saw what was going on because after she went to the house, and mind you, when she was in the house, of course she asked Simone asked Tracy, well, I would like a tour of your home. And Tracy takes her all around the home, take her in the kitchen, in the bathroom, bedroom, living room. And mind you, Simone is studying every everything that Tracy has in her house, studying everything. And she's taking pictures and she's making a mental note in her mind of every single item that Tracy has in her home. She's doing this. So, of course, after, she had that dinner and she sees how beautiful Tracy home is in the car she drives, she goes home and she started purchasing the same exact furniture. She got stainless steel appliances in her kitchen. And mind you, she's just renting this condo. She has no business changing anything around. She's only renting it. She's not even renting to buy. So she's not supposed to be doing this, but she got to have everything like Tracy. She has the stainless steel appliances. She changed out her furniture. It's identical to Tracy's. She changed her bedroom. Now, mind you, her condo is smaller than Tracy's big old mansion and home. But she made everything fit. She made everything work. And this explains why every time that Tracy wanted to come over, she would make some excuse like, oh, let's go out to dinner. Let's do this and that, because she didn't want Tracy to see how identical her place was to hers. So she's just taking this thing further and further, and she's maxing out her card, and she ended up buying. It took her 6 months to buy the Mercedes S550. She finally got it. Now, it was a year, I think it was like a couple of years older than Tracy's, but it was identical. It was identical to Tracy's. And she's just maxing out all these credit cards. And this girl is $70,000 in debt. Yeah. She has become so consumed with this girl's lifestyle that she doesn't realize that she's digging herself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole. So what ended up happening, her fiance, Chris, just couldn't take it because he could see that, you know what, you're crazy. You are trying to keep up with your friend Tracy's lifestyle. That he actually, that day after when they had that Easter dinner, she always had a spare key and he knew where it was, but he never took it because he wanted her on her own to give him the key. But on that particular day, he decided to take the key. And when he took the key, he went in there for 2 hours. He searched her computer. He searched all this stuff that she's been doing for the whole 6 months that she's known Tracy. And he found out a whole lot. Not only was she trying to copycat Tracy, he found out her real background, that her family is from Ohio. And he got this information from her grandmother. He found out that back in Ohio, she was arrested for selling prescription drugs because she was trying to mimic another best friend that she had, that she was very fond of, and how she went into all this debt, and how she lost a lot of stuff back behind her trying to keep up with this other best friend. She went to jail, and how she somehow, some way, she had all that stuff removed off of her background and all of that. And how her fiance divorced her when he found out. Well, I'm sorry, her fiance called off their engagement when he found out that she was selling prescription drugs and trying to copycat off of another friend, and how her family didn't have a close relationship with her, how her mother was strung out on drugs and actually sick in the hospital. And Simone knew about this, and how she's always been embarrassed of her family, and how she was just trying to repeat the same thing all over again with this Tracy woman, that she was copycatting off of her. And and being obsessed with her. He found all this stuff out, and he tried to give her chance after chance after chance to explain what she was doing, and he just cracked her face. He said, I know about everything. You are a liar, you are a manipulator, you're sick, you're crazy, you are a copycat, and you don't even realize what you're doing. And of course she's angry with him, but she never did love him. She never was in love with him. And here he is, so in love with her, wanting to spend his life with her. And he don't even know who it is that he's in love with. He had to find out on his own by snooping around in her stuff to find out who this woman really is. So he said, you know what? You're going to regret everything that you did to me. And he almost just hated her. So as they become friends and all this and that, and she copycatted her down to a science, Tracy, her friend, was writing a new novel, and it was getting raving reviews before it even came out. Her fans were waiting for it. So she has the book release date. They go to the book release little turnout or whatever, little party, and the turnout was amazing. She had so many people there just waiting to have the autograph signed and her signature in her book or whatever. And she's there and she's thanking her husband and her parents and her sister. Now, mind you, Simone is there, but she was feeling some type of way when Tracy was acknowledging everybody else, and she felt like Tracy should acknowledge her. So she's just fuming mad. She's fuming mad. She's so angry, like, dang, she acknowledged her sister, her husband, and her parents, but she didn't even say me. And she called her sister her best friend and thanking all these other people. And she felt slighted a little bit. But as the evening went on, she did actually acknowledge her. She said, oh, I forgot one more thing. My friend Simone Phillips in the back. She is too a writer, an inspiring writer, and she has a book as well that's getting ready to come out. And I want everybody in here to show her support. She's a good friend of mine. And raise your hand so everybody can see you. And she does. So she felt a little bit better about that, but it wasn't as deep as she felt as when she was talking about her family and her husband. She felt like, okay, she did acknowledge me, but she still didn't like it. She felt so angry and mad. And you know, I don't get it. She acknowledged this girl at the book signing and told everybody to go show her support and support her book when it comes out. And she's a great writer and a great author, and I'm excited for her. She acknowledged this girl. And then during the book signing, she's just watching Tracy the whole time like a hawk, just watching her, just staring at her. And mind you, Robin is watching all of this, okay? She's just sitting back watching this and how she was just staring at her. And then, of course, it was finally time for her to get her book signed from her friend Tracy. She signs it, and then they take this picture. And she's smiling, but there was still something in her eyes. So they take their picture and whatnot. And then after that, of course, Robin tells her, you know what, this girl is crazy. She was staring at you the whole time. Like Simone had her hair like you, her eyebrows like you, her clothes like you, just everything. And then don't forget about the S550 she bought just like you, the same color. Like, if you can't see this, sis, I don't know what to tell you. This girl is crazy. Now, she listened when she finally was looking at the photos from that night, and she looked at the photo of her and Simone, and that's when she noticed, like, wait a minute, because her book actually was called Copycat, and the book was about a girl who didn't know who she was, didn't have her own self-identity, and she was just copycatting her friend over and over and over. And she didn't realize that she was really talking about her friend Simone, but actually, she was speaking about her previous experience with Denise. That's where she was writing from that experience. She wasn't thinking about Simone, but it's crazy how the book actually was about Simone. And That's what her sister was trying to tell her. Robin, you just don't know that that book is about your friend. You don't even know it. You don't even know that that's about Simone. She's crazy. And so when she looked at those pictures, that's when she realized, like, oh my gosh, she does have her eyebrows like mine. And she's even trying to wear makeup that's closer to my complexion and color. And we're not even the same color, but yet she's trying to do that. And she has her hair just like mine and the same color. That's when she was like, oh my gosh, she is copying me. And so at this point, now we get to the part where Chris is like, I'm going to tell. He didn't tell her, but immediately when he left and he asked, he said, give me my ring back and here is your key back. And so, of course, after that happened, she was very devastated, but she had sent some yellow flowers to Tracy's home. And of course, it said, I'm so happy for you. I'm proud of you on all of your success with your book. And I loved everything about it. I'm glad and happy for you. Sincerely, your best friend, Simone. And of course, when she received those flowers, they were pretty. They were like a yellow arrangement. It was very, very pretty, very, very thoughtful. She immediately called Simone to thank her. And when she called Simone, of course, she could hear in Simone's voice that something was wrong. And she was like, yeah, I'm just a little upset because Chris called off the engagement and it was out of nowhere. And of course, Tracy was like, what do you mean it was out of nowhere? She was like, it was out of nowhere. He just didn't want to marry me anymore because he said we couldn't come. I didn't want to join my bank account with his and I didn't want to go to his church. And she was like, she was thinking in her mind, like, that's all? Like, he didn't strike me as the type that would just leave for no reason. And she was just thinking in her head, I would love to hear his story because it's always two sides to every story. And so she said, well, do you want me to come over? And of course, she don't want Tracy to come over because if she would have come over her house, she would see that this looks like my place. So she was like, no, can we go out somewhere or can I come to your house? And she was like, well, you can come over to my house and I'll make sure that I order some food and, you can come by here and we can talk about it and eat and I'll be here for you. She says, okay. So she's on her way over to Tracy's house. And of course, while Tracy ordered all the food and everything like that, Tracy's husband's call. And she was like, oh, hey, he was like, hey, what are you doing, honey? And she was like, oh, nothing. She was like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm on my way home, but I was calling to see if I needed to stop to get anything for dinner. She was like, no, don't get anything for dinner because I ordered a lot of food and everything like that. It's all covered. He was like, why you order so much food? And she was like, oh, Simone is going to come over. And he was like, oh, is everything okay? And she was like, well, Chris called off their engagement. And he was like, why? And she was like, well, it was something about she wouldn't join bank accounts with him. And she didn't want to go to his church. And he was like, seems like it's more to the story than that. I wish I could have known what really happened or hear his side. And he was like, oh, speaking of Tim, he's calling me. Speaking of Chris, he's calling me. And she was like, oh, really? And he was like, yeah, hold on. And so he clicked over and Chris was like, hey, man, I'm on my way to your house to tell you something important. And it's about Simone. He was like, okay, man, that's fine. And he clicks back over with his wife and he was like, well, I just spoke to him. He said that he needed to talk to us about something important and he's on his way over. And she was like, really? That's strange because Simone said she's coming over too. He was like, well, I don't know. And she was like, well, I need to call him to tell him not to come or tell him not to come. And he was like, it's too late. I'm pulling in the driveway right now. So we don't have time to tell him and he's on his way. So anyways, Simone pulls up and she's there. She goes in and of course Tracy sees tears in her eyes and how devastated she is. And then Chris pulls up too. And when Chris comes in, they was like, well, what's going on? He said, I'll tell you what's going on. And at that point, Simone, her heart is racing a mile a minute because she was like, oh God, he's going to expose me. He's going to expose me. And sure enough, he comes and he has like this envelope, very thick. And he just places on the table and he shows Tracy pictures of Simone's house and all of the information that Simone had on her computer. And also he had where Simone was writing a story, and basically she was doing plagiarism because she was copycatting off of one of her stories. And he had all this stuff on the table, and then she was looking side by side at the furniture that Simone had and her furniture, and then all the other stuff he put on there, like took pictures of, so that she could see everything that this girl was doing. And he said, do you see, she's crazy. And not only that, her parents are drug addicts. They're not from California. They're from Ohio. And she also not only tried to copycat you, she tried to copycat someone else from where she's from in Ohio. She didn't come here because of a job. She came here to escape the mess that she created when she was back in Ohio. She did the same thing. She tried to buy a big old house like her best friend. She tried to buy the same car, clothes, and everything, and even sold prescription drugs. She actually got arrested for this stuff. He was just telling it all. And of course, Simone is just crying. She's devastated. She couldn't believe it. She's just so mortified and embarrassed. And Tracy was really hurt. She couldn't believe this. Like, all this time I befriended you, I trusted you, and you're trying to write a book that is similar to my story? And then you did this stuff with someone else and you're copycatting me? And all this time I'm taking up for you and believing that you just had this admiration for me, and you're copycatting off of me? And she said, you know what? Get out, and I don't ever want to hear from you again. Don't call me. Don't come by my house. Don't text me. Don't do any of that. Leave right now. And of course, she's angry at Chris, and she said, I hate you, and you can do me a favor by, why don't you go somewhere and die? And then of course, Tracy's husband Tim was like, okay, I don't care. That's a little bit too much. You know, you don't mean that. You're just angry, but y'all gonna have to leave. They leave out of there. And she is just devastated that this got out. And she knew that there was nothing she could do to try to fix it, because she tried to plead and beg Tracy to just hear me out. I can explain everything. And sure enough, she knew that once she left Tracy's house, that was going to be it. And it was. She lost that friendship with Tracy. And it come to find out, with Simone, her grandmother and her mother was strung out on drugs, and she would have her little girl, she would take her to these crack houses, places, and have her little girl give oral sex to these people for drugs. So she had major problems. Simone had major problems, and she didn't get along with her family, and they didn't really treat her right, didn't really look out for her. Really, she didn't get to enjoy the childhood life. And this started, and I think in a sense, the reason why she wants to mimic and copycat other people's lives is because her very own life was messed up. She didn't want to be anything like her family, like her mother. She just didn't want to be her experience. She didn't want to be none of that. So at the age of 11, she started copycatting people, because she had a little best friend when she was in the 6th grade. And she just promised herself that she would be better. So I think with every person that she looked up to, she tried to mimic them and be them. This is why she didn't really have a sense of identity. I really felt sorry for her and her background and her story. And this explains why I think she copycats people, because she just want to be better than what she is and what she went through. So I really felt sorry for her. And, Tracy did too. It took a whole year before Tracy actually found it in her heart to forgive her and really examine her background and her story in her life. And she did forgive her in her heart, but she never, of course, they can never be friends again, but she did at least forgive her, because for a while she was angry, she was mad, she was holding a grudge, but then she decided that that's not the right thing to do. I'm going to forgive her. And then what ended up happening to Simone actually moved to Atlanta, and she started seeing a psychiatrist, and she started getting counseling. Now, she didn't get on medication. She just needed some counseling and to sort through her emotions and the different things that she was going to. And she actually started going to church, but this time she went to church for the right reason. And she really was sincere about finding out who God is and trying to find God so that he can help straighten out her life. So I'm glad that, she got the help that she needed. She's getting counseling, and then she's trying to find God. So she's going to go up from here. And she really learned her lesson with Tracy and that whole ordeal. She really learned her lesson, and I think she's going to be okay. This was sad. It was sad. Now I understood why she was doing the things that she was doing. So Copycat is a wonderful, wonderful, great book. And that is my review of Copycat. I thank you guys for listening to my long review once again. You guys be blessed, and ciao.